My name is Mary Munson Murphy, and I'm one of the educators for the Nathan and Esther Powell's Holocaust Education Resource Center. We're going to talk about rescue today. I don't want to give you a false impression, because as we talk about rescuers today, of course, I'm going to talk about these wonderful people. But if in fact there had been more rescuers, we would not be here today talking about the Holocaust. So make no mistake about it. Although we're going to honor these rescuers, we needed more. So let's talk about that today and see what we can do. The first thing is a poem. Rescuers. Not all superheroes fly. They stay grounded, helping others find their wings to soar. Some superheroes find their strength from helping others find escape. Rescuers are all superheroes, protectors, guides, providers of food, hiding places, forged documents. Rescuers are a life force, those who oversee the frightened and nurture their hope. Rescuers are super, amazing, and wondrous, with iron strength and incredible compassion. Not all superheroes fly. They stay grounded, helping others find their wings to soar. A friend of mine who survived the Holocaust would tell you that you create your own superhero strength. Each one of you has a dog living inside of you. One dog is a very good dog, and one dog is a very bad dog. And he would ask you to think about which of those two dogs living inside of you do you think will grow stronger? The answer is always the same. It's always the same. It's whichever dog you choose to feed the most. So you have the capacity inside of you to become this superhero rescuer. You have it. Or you can choose to feed the other dog. And we're going to talk about those who fed the right dog today. So let's begin. One of the questions always is, were these people superhuman? Were they ordinary people, or were they extraordinary, so extraordinary that we cannot be like them? What happened to Jews during the Holocaust? Remember, we're talking about that period from 1933 to 1945. Every single thing that happened before happened again. Every single thing. The only thing new on this list that had not happened to them before is the killing. The killing. By the end of the war, they had killed 2/3. Get that in your brain. They had access to 9 million Jewish people, 9 million Jewish people, and they managed to murder 6 million, 2 out of every 3. 2 out of every 3. How did the remaining Jews survive? They almost never did it alone. They had to have someone at some point, in some small way, save them. What we do know, though, that 85% of all the people who were under Nazi control, 85% said, you know, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not Jewish, not my problem, I'm not going to do it. 10% did all that damage. 10 people out of every 100. 5 out of every 100 said, you know what, I'm not Jewish, but I'm going to wear it anyway. I'm going to do it. These are my brothers and sisters. So when we murder each other, we're really murdering the same group, the same kind, because that's it. When you think about rescuers, Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Jerusalem, they have a name for righteous Gentiles. You can see that over time, 24,000 plus have been named that. How did they get that name? What had to happen? I'm going to tell you what I think are some of the most important things. You did it because it was like people would say it's the right thing. It just was the right thing to do. Not just the ethical thing, but the moral thing, the human thing. Keeping people inside what we call the circle of humanity. So we're going to talk just a little bit about some of these rescuers. The first one is Irena Sendler. She was Polish. She worked for an agency in Poland, and because of her work, she was able to save about 400 Jewish children. But the agency in general, the one she worked for, saved actually 2,500. One of the ways that she did this was to literally carry children out in potato sacks or put them into coffins and carry them out of the ghetto. In Poland, you really put your life on the line if you saved people. Another one was a Japanese diplomat. His name was Sugihara. He's really my favorite because I know a woman. When I worked in Houston, Texas, I know a woman, and she's here today because her mom and dad were fortunate enough to get visas in Lithuania from this man, visa number 7 and visa number 8. So she's here today, her grandchildren are. It's been a wonderful life because Sugihara, who was this diplomat, asked permission to help people get out because it was such a terrible situation. And he waited and waited and he didn't hear, and then he said, I'm going to do it anyway. So he started issuing these visas day and night and day and night and day and night. When the information came that he would not be allowed to do it, he didn't quit. He did not quit. It cost him his career, but he knew it was the right thing to do. Rescuers came in all kinds of different packages. This rescuer is a man named Oskar Schindler. How many of you have at least heard of the movie Schindler's List? How many of you raise your hands if you've seen the movie Schindler's List? I liken Schindler to the Grinch. You know how in the Grinch he's going to steal Christmas, he's going to take it, and then all of a sudden his heart grows so many sizes in a day, and then it's okay, he rescues Christmas? Schindler is a war profiteer. He's Czech. He's from the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia then. He wants to make money. It is his passion. He wants to make money and he wants to play. He wants to have women. He wants to drink. This is not a good moral man. He gets a factory and he uses Jewish labor because he doesn't have to pay them, and then his heart begins to melt because he gets to know them as real people. These are not people he can make money off of. These are real people. And as he gets that humanity, he starts to give the money away, to bribe people, to save people, to create the list. So Schindler has nothing left. I visited his grave in Jerusalem. The Catholic cemetery in Jerusalem put stones on his grave and remember him too. Varian Fry was an American. And with the help, really, of, how many of you know who Eleanor Roosevelt was? Good guys. Eleanor Roosevelt wasn't one to stand on the sidelines and say, we're not going to do anything about things she saw. And she was pretty upset with what was happening, and so she intervenes on behalf of rescue. And Varian Fry goes to France, ostensibly with the Americans helping him. When he gets to Marseille, which is one of the French cities, when he gets there, he finds out that the American consulate will not help him, will not do what they were supposed to do, but because, again, he had been so stricken by what he had seen earlier, he decides he's going to go ahead and do the best he can anyway. And with the help of friends and people, he manages to save over 2,000 people. Again, people died one by one, they were saved one by one. Probably the person credited with saving the greatest number of individuals, and in fact, who paid dearly for what he did, is a man named Raoul Wallenberg. He's with the Swedish government. The Swedes again and again and again show us what we should do. They certainly fed the right dog. And he again is charged to come in to see what he can do with these false papers and legal documents. When he finds out that he needs to do more, he does it. Whether he has to do it legally or illegally, he's going to do anything it takes. Ultimately, he is arrested actually by the Soviets, and we're told that they believe he died in a Soviet prison in 1947. He was never seen by his family again, but he did what he needed to do. Sometimes it was religious people. These are the Huguenots who lived in the Chambon. You can hear, this is a marvelous, marvelous story of approximately 5,000 people who saved 5,000 people because André Trocmé, who was their pastor, and his wife Magda simply said, not here, not in this place. We will not let you do this to us. And they managed to save 5,000. Lest you think that it was only individuals who could be strong, the country of Denmark is a remarkable story of a country that said, we're going to do things differently. I love the story of the Danish rescue because they never said they were helping Jews. They said they were helping Danes who happened to be Jewish. They had given them full citizenship and they kept full citizenship. They never defined them outside that circle of humanity. They kept them there, and they managed to save almost all of the Jews who were living at that time in Denmark. Moreover, when the Jews came home, as Danes, they were welcomed, and their homes were intact. Not everyone saved huge numbers either. Irena Updike was Polish. She was beautiful, and she worked for a Nazi officer. She worked in the house of a Nazi officer, and she hid 12 Jews in the basement. One day he came home and he realized what she had done. He didn't kill her, but he extracted from her, shall we call them favors that a man might want from a beautiful woman. Nonetheless, she saved them. And today, again, they're very grateful. The last story I'll tell you is about this girl, Hania Lefkowitz. Hania survived the war, and she survived the war because the Catholic family took her in. But when she went back to her village, her town in Poland, she had to go to school. And she was tormented every day. People would say things, kids like, you got away? Hitler couldn't get you? The teacher ridiculed her. And then a young boy named Risik came to the school, and he asked her her name. Everyone else called her Jew girl. He asked her her name. She gave him that name, and he stood up for her, carried her books for her, and within a few weeks, other kids started to treat her well, and by the end of the school year, those acts of rescue made even the teacher see a whole different way. So Hania's rescuers were twofold, during the war and after the war. I show you this because I think rescue is one of those things that when we talk about rescue for us, it's unlikely I will ever be in a position to hide people in my basement, but I can help. I can do the right thing. I can help somebody. I can stand up for people, and so can you. So I'd ask you to think about that today, because they died one by one, but they could have been saved one by one. All we needed was more rescuers, more people who said, no, I'm not Jewish, but maybe I'll put on the skull cap today and I will be Jewish for you. So in those times, there was darkness everywhere, in heaven and on earth. All the gates of compassion seemed to have been closed. The killer killed and the Jews died, and the outside world adopted an attitude either of complicity or indifference. Only a few had the courage to care. These few men and women were vulnerable, afraid, helpless. What made them different from their fellow citizens? Why were there so few? Let us remember, what hurts the victim most is not the cruelty of the oppressor, but the silence of the bystander. Let us not forget, after all, there is always a moment when moral choice is made. And so we must know these good people who helped Jews during the Holocaust. We must learn from them, and in gratitude and hope, we must remember them. Elie Wiesel. I think we need to ask ourselves, which dog will we feed? Thank you.